paid good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of The Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. On this episode, I am talking with Jeffrey St. Jules all about his new film, The Silent Planet. It is a sci-fi film that is filmed up in Canada. Amazing landscapes and a really compelling story. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy this interview. How did you even decide to become a filmmaker?
Oh gosh, I guess I it's what I wanted to do since I left high school, and I think it just is just a great way to build worlds. And grew up making, like, I grew up in rural Nova Scotia, and I didn't have a video camera or anything, so I didn't grow up making films, but I would always talk about ideas and things I would want to make with my friends, and it just seemed like, why don't people just do this? Why don't they do this? And then once I started making it, I was like, oh, that's why people don't do that. But I like that spirit of always asking yourself, why can't I just do this? And then try. So I guess it goes back to that. And I just love being able to create a world. That's what really excites me about making a film, is you get to live in this other world for a little while.
So tell me a little bit about The Silent Planet and how this project came to you.
It goes back to childhood as well. I used to fantasize about living in outer space. I used to pretend I was from outer space and that I was going to one day go back to my home planet. But I used to have kind of a hermit fantasy, which I think some people have, where I just want to leave everything behind and go live by myself in the woods, or if possible, like on a distant planet. I don't believe I could have ever done it, but the sort of idea came from that impulse of, and that question really of, can we really leave everything behind? If you were to go by yourself to another planet, knowing you would never return to Earth, does anything that happened on Earth matter anymore? Does who you were matter anymore? Are you still who you were? Can you move beyond who you were? Like, those kind of questions were interesting me in the film.
Do you always write what you direct?
Yes, I have so far. People don't send me scripts very often.
You talked about the hermit fantasy and living on your own and everything. That definitely informs this, but where did you come up with these characters?
I just had a very simple image of this guy on a distant planet, daily doing this task he didn't know what was for. And I just wrote that little image down. I don't know when, many years ago, in my document of little images that sparked something. And then I just came back to it, and then I started building a story around it.
Where did you actually shoot this one?
We shot in Newfoundland. Where are you based?
I'm just outside of Detroit.
Okay, so you're not in Canada. But
No, but I'm almost in Canada. I'm almost so close.
Yeah, you're pretty much at Windsor. Yeah. Yeah, so shot in Newfoundland, which is kind of northeast Canada. It's an island, and they just have some really great scenery there. The place we shot, like the land where it's all orange, is this place called the Tablelands in Grossmorn National Park. And it's actually one of only two places in the world where the Earth's mantle is exposed. Deep in the earth, somehow, a long time ago, this got opened up and exposed and created this really interesting orangey rock. and it looks like a desert, but it's not like a dry desert. It's that way because it's toxic and things can't really grow there. So yeah, just a really unique landscape. So that's that. And then other places around Newfoundland, which just has tons of interesting, unique scenery.
I was surprised to see some of the special effects that are in the film. How was that getting those together?
Our special effects people are Mars, a company called Mars. And then we had a couple independent guys as well who are just out of school, Francisco and Joy, who helped us out with some of the stuff as well. Because we're shooting like in a national park, we couldn't bring our whole spaceship there. They wouldn't let us. We had to protect the land, of course. We built this sort of spaceship in the studio for some of the exterior stuff, but then we made it, a production designer and our team made it so the door was portable. So we could just bring the door to the location. So they're always coming in and out. It's just a door. And then the special effects team built the whole spaceship around it. We're inspired by we wanted to just have a flying saucer look, old retro feel to it, but CGI and everything.
They talk about how movies are made, 3 times, the writing, the directing, and the editing. So what were those different phases like for you?
Once your actors come in and start inhabiting these characters, they transform. Actually, the opening of the film initially had in the script a lot of voiceover, unreliable narrator type voiceover with Theo. But as we got into it and Elias set a certain tone with the way he played the character, it just didn't feel necessary again in the edit. It just felt nicer to just watch this guy. It was just fascinating to watch. So that was one way. I like to be a little bit ruthless in the editing room and not be afraid to cut things. The general structure of it stayed intact. We moved stuff around, we chopped stuff. Like it starts and ends pretty much how we had it, but there's some stuff that had to be adjusted or taken out or tweaked along the way. As I think there always is, usually, yeah.
So much of this movie relies on your 2 main characters. Can you tell me about the casting process and how you got these 2?
We made an offer to Elias, and luckily for us, he connected with it. It's just got so much pathos to him, so much. You just really feel for this guy, and you feel like he's lived a life. He's one of our great Canadian actors. So I was just really lucky that and it meant a lot to him. Like he really he took it very seriously. It wasn't just a job for him. So I felt very thankful for that. And Briana, I wasn't familiar with before, but her name came up and then I watched, she'd only had done 2 movies, not the main characters, but sort of main character and Sharper. She's got this very nuanced way of acting that is very compelling. And she on set, she was for somebody who had only done 2 films, she was so confident and so just would nail it the first time, take a little direction, nail that, and just so easy. But sometimes I would just think about what I wanted to change, and it seemed like she would do it. So I was very lucky to have her on it, I think. But no, for the casting, we didn't do an audition. I just watched her stuff, then we met over Zoom and talked, and she seemed to really get the character. Luckily, she agreed to do it as well.
Yeah, the performances are top notch. And it's great to hear that she was almost psychic when it came to your direction.
Yeah, there were times when we're just maybe thinking all on the same wavelength and what to switch up, but yeah.
With something like this too, the sound design is so important because you have some swaths where there's nobody speaking. Can you talk about your mix and your sound designer?
Yeah, Bryson. I would have loved to have a lot more time with sound, but the short time we had, he did a great job just capturing. We really wanted to feel the planet. There's 30 minutes of music, so it's not tons of music. There's a lot of times when you're just with the 2 of them and it's quiet, and I really wanted to feel the creaking and groaning of it, and also that feeling of when he's just by himself in his cozy little place. You want to feel there's a planet that out there. So there's a lot of talk of what the planet would sound like, a lot of tweaking and playing around with what the aliens would sound like. That was a big thing. But yeah, the sound was a lot of fun in this film.
Is Fantasia your world premiere?
Yeah. It'll be really exciting to play it in front of an audience. My last film was the festival circuit during COVID, so I didn't get to go experience my film with a live audience. And the only time I did, it was like nobody was coming out to films anymore. So I'm really excited to actually have an audience. I've gone to see some films here so far, and the audiences seem great, so I'm excited to.
As you're putting together the film, as you're doing your editing, are you showing it to other people and getting their opinions and making adjustments based on that?
Yeah, we did a few screenings for people we know and trust. And I wanted to only give enough information so that people could get who these characters are and where they're coming from. I didn't want to go beyond that and get muddled down and bogged down in all that. So a lot of it was like, do you understand that her mother was an alien? Do you understand that? Just making sure that people got it in that way. But no, I feel like that's an important part of the process. Not to go get marked and scored market-wise, but to just make sure that what your intention is coming across to an audience, because you can easily lose track of that. With sci-fi, there's so much world building, so you want people to grasp the world without being inundated with too much information about the world.
As I was watching the film, and you've got the aliens and you've got their language and everything, did you see any sort of parallel between the aliens and some of the actual like Inuit or natives of Canada?
I wasn't thinking too much in terms of Indigenous people. Any group who's marginalized, and it's a little more immigration themed. So I correlated a little more to the way people are often treated when they're immigrating, just looking to have a better life somewhere. So yeah, I was definitely thinking about that. In earlier versions of the script, it was a little more realistic, but I was thinking a lot about immigration and refugees and that kind of thing, which is essentially what the Oeans are. Although I don't go into too much detail, but they're refugees from their planet, which was destroyed, who are misunderstood and feared.
Yeah, that's the thing I appreciate about sci-fi so much, is that you can have these metaphors for other stories. You can with so many genres, but that's what I like about sci-fi specifically.
It's a great thing. And kind of being at a bit of a distance from it gives you a different perspective on it. I think that's interesting. I agree. That's what's great about good sci-fi, is that when there's correlations to our world.
I know you haven't even had your premiere, but do you have an idea for your next one in mind already?
Yeah, I'm pushing on a few scripts now. I got a folk horror set in like 1907 in Prince Edward Island, which is where my family is from, where I'm from. About this guy who's trying to start a fox farm. And I have two more kind of sci-fi related ideas, like romance, sci-fi. So yeah, I've got a couple things brewing. Hopefully they'll pull together some money and make them.
Is there a good place for people to keep up with you and your work online?
People ask me that, and I don't have a good answer because I'm not great with my online presence. So I really gotta create something for people to look at. But no, I don't have anything. Google my name, I guess. That's fair.
Yeah, I just hope more people will be able to see this once it comes out, because I had a really good time with it.
We're just premiering now. We have our distributors. We have distributors, Quiver. We'll be getting it out there. We don't have a release date as of yet. But yeah, we'll get all that stuff up online.
Mr. St. Jules, thank you so much for your time. This is wonderful.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.